following is a recording that Jessica and I originally did at the beginning of the year, and it felt wholly appropriate to talk about again moving and free will and living through what God wants for us. So, this is a little bit of a encore edition, if you will, that we felt like we could go back and revisit and re-edit and upload to talk a little bit more about free will. Also, happy Mother's Day. So, this reading takes into account Romans 8:31, Psalm 46 verses 1 through 3, and Luke 1 verse 37. So it says, I am with you and for you. When you decide on a course of action that is in line with my will, nothing in heaven or earth can stop you. You may encounter many obstacles as you move toward your goal, but don't be discouraged. Never give up. With my help, you can overcome any obstacle. Do not expect an easy path as you journey hand in hand with me, but do remember that I, your very present helper, am omnipotent. It's an omnipotent. Omnipotent. Much stress results from your wanting to make things happen before their times have come. One of the main ways I assert my sovereignty is in the timing of events. If you want to stay close to me and do things my way, ask me to show you the path forward moment by moment. Instead of dashing headlong toward your goal, let me set the pace, slow down, and enjoy the journey in my presence. So the big question that I have is, I am with you and for you. When you decide on a course of action that is in line with my will, nothing in heaven or earth can stop you.
Yeah.
How do you figure out the course of action that is in line with whatever God's will is? Almost seems to me like it's going to be trial and error, whatever way you cut it. So
Yeah.
I could decide to pursue something today and feel in one way that it's in line with what God wants because it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not what he wants. Maybe it's not part of that course of action.
I think we're constantly discerning that.
It almost feels like it's boiled it down to a point that it makes sense, but I'm not 100%.
Also feels way above you at the same time.
Yes, I don't know how to interpret that.
The things that I'm thinking about are all the times that we've read something or listened to something where it's like God's timing is so far outside of ours. Like we can't even fathom God's timing on things. We might be struggling with X, Y, or Z for a really long time, and it feels like such a long stretch of time to us, but God can already see it. He already knows the plan. He already knows the end result, the things that are going to happen between like A and B, but we're the ones struggling in the middle of, what do you want from me? What am I supposed to do? In the in-between part. But I do think that once, to answer your question, once something actually is God's will for your life, personally, I've seen it as you have a sense of peace. Things keep clicking together the way that they're supposed to. And as long as you stay prayerful and listening for the next best step versus like, I'm going to push this forward, I'm going to make this happen, it's going to be my way, then you get an answer that way. Like you might still encounter hard things and suffering, and like, for example, when everything happened with the roof in our house, looking back on it, it looks and feels how it was supposed to play out. But while we were in it, it really sucked. And it was like, when is this going to end? But from the time that
I feel like there's this diversion of two different roads. And I feel like you could potentially go down a road where you think you're doing something that is in line with God's will. So you're going on this journey. We as flawed human beings, you might sin. You might be doing something that you feel is good for you in the moment or feel like it's in line with what God wants, but ultimately doesn't play into the grand scheme of things of what he wants. It seems to me that either way, you're probably going to encounter obstacles. And so how do I, as a human being, look at some of those obstacles and go, oh, well, this might not be the right way, or this might not be the thing that God wants. Or this is the thing that God wants, and God is going to get me through the obstacle.
I think that's the right mindset, that second part.
Right,
God's going to get me through the obstacle.
It feels to me that no matter what path you attempt to venture forward through in life, you're going to hit an obstacle.
Yeah.
And so how do you know if it's a good thing or a bad thing? How do you know if it's in line with God's will or not?
I think that's the difference between like God and Satan, basically. Like Satan's always going to be a part of the world. There's always going to be obstacles, but I think it's like our reaffirming our repeated trust in God, that he has told us that he only wants good things for us. He only wants the good for us. And I think it's like the interference of evil that gets in the way. So I think that like, at least lately, what I think I'm understanding is we're going to be tested. It's our reaffirming during the testing that gets us back. It's like the testing kind of tries to push you off the path of what you're supposed to be doing. And our repeated affirmation that we're going to trust no matter what, or faith no matter what, is what gets us back on the path. But I think that we're always going to have that. Like it's always like a balance of like good and evil, like we talk about all the time.
So how do you know that you're on the path then? If you're doing that, praying and looking for that affirmation, how do you interpret that the path that you're on is the correct path and not just because it feels good to you in the moment?
Not feels good, but I think it's like you see things lining up to make that happen.
What does that mean?
For example, like when we were looking for this house, like you and I were trying to like push things forward as much as possible. And it, to me, the way that I remember it, you can tell me if it's different, but along the process, it felt like 4 years, because of everything with COVID, you and I were like, let's just get in a house. Let's get out of the apartment. Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen. One or the other would feel like a certain house is a right place. The other one isn't. Looking at listings every day, like sending them to the realtor, just sitting in frustration through that. But now that I have like a bird's eye view looking back at it, it's like, what worked? Honestly, from my perspective, got to a place where I just kept like offering it up. God, please help us make this happen. Instead of sitting in like frustration, this didn't happen, this didn't work out, like whole way through. That to me is like the better option, looking at it from a bird's eye view, because what ended up happening in the end is we ended up with a realtor who we didn't have to send every single house to. And we didn't have to work really super hard on our own, like flipping through pages like Zillow and driving by houses and checking things out on our own. The thing was to find the right fit, let him take off on it. And then even though the housing market was crazy, the one that worked out was the one that we look at each other every single day and go, this is right. This is where we're supposed to be right now. Maybe not forever the right choice, but at this moment, this feels right.
And so
all the in between is the struggle that we didn't necessarily need to have. It was more like, all right, we're going to keep plugging ahead, hoping that this is the right thing to do. Checking in with God is what we should have done the whole time together as a couple. And then the end result of this is what we would like to happen. Is there more time that we need to spend in the current place that we're in? I guess that's what I'm getting at. I think it's a constant relationship. We're just not on the same level as God.
Well, so break that down for just a minute. When we were looking for a house and spent countless hours and heartache and conversations and anything else under the sun, we found a realtor that we liked. And it did seem to come out of nowhere because we were both sick with COVID. And we basically got a phone call from him one day saying, hey, there's this house and you should check it out. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't check it out because we were sick. But within 45 minutes, he was inside of the house and FaceTimed us the entirety of the house. We really liked it, but we're afraid to say anything more for fear that we'd miss out on it, just like we missed out on every other house that we liked. But then it did just kind of fall into place. He literally said, give me 15 minutes. And he called back right afterwards and said, if you want it, you can have it. And it did feel like things slid together, like
Yes.
puzzle pieces. Everything came together in that moment. I think what I'm trying to piece together in my mind is what changed? What changed with that scenario?
I think that was God's timing all along. We were the ones who were struggling with the time in between of, if we don't make this next house happen, we're going to be stuck in this apartment forever. It was our own frustration along the way, when my learning from the process is God's got an end date anyway of when that thing's going to happen. We're the ones who have to like find our peace in the meantime in between.
So that's a struggle for me. And part of the reason that's a struggle for me is it comes back to a conversation that we had earlier. And it goes along the lines of, if God's got this timing and a thing is going to happen, there's a scenario, for example, where what if we didn't look at any other houses? We didn't talk to anybody else, and we just happened to talk to that realtor at that point in time, and everything fell into place. Does that mean that everything else, every effort that we made, all of the heartache that we went through, all of the conversations and angry discussions that we had, and then sad feelings after we missed out on houses, does that mean or insinuate that we didn't have to go through any of that? Or did we have to go through that in order to get to that realtor? Is there a world where you basically don't do anything at all and it kind of just falls into your lap? So are you saying that we had to go through some of that struggle in order to get to the end point?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
I think there are lots of reasons that we might not, like, I don't think I could encompass all of the reasons, because God's timing is outside of what we can even fathom. I think that there are opportunities for growth together as a couple that you might not take advantage of if you're stuck in this sucks and trying to push it forward on your own, versus like coming together as a couple and being like, what does God want for us right now? And then offering up the suffering of all the bad things that were happening around us in the apartment and it not feeling like it was the best place. Saying, God, how can you use this suffering to help someone else? Or, God, what are we supposed to be learning from the in-between time? How is it supposed to be drawing us closer together in the in-between time? Do you even want us to move to a house?
And you feel like all of those things are questions that came together at the right time because it was God's will and God's timing.
Yeah, but I think that there were things that we learned in the in-between time, like together as a couple, that we were supposed to learn, like how to communicate with each other, the things that make us feel like safe, like what, just even down to like what we like about a house in each other. I learned that you would like a film room. I always envisioned that for you, but that's one thing that it feels like this is not the forever place for that reason. I think we need to get you to another place at some time that has that. But it doesn't mean that like right now isn't the right place for right now. Isn't there a part of you that can have peace with this being the right place for right now, and then knowing that God has timing for the next place if that's what's meant to be?
There is, but the way that my brain works is, what if? What if we had held on for another week? What if we had held on for another month? Is there a possibility that there was something else out there? Not necessarily that we didn't make the right move with the house as the example, right? We keep coming back to this as the example, but
Yeah,
you could apply it to anything, right? I often wonder about, with God's timing, if you do make that decision, obviously you have to live with it, and there are pluses and minuses to that. But is there a point in time or place in time where maybe if we didn't go down the road of going through all of those other houses, maybe we'd be in a different place right now, maybe in a different state even? Is that possible?
I think so. I also think that we take the next step forward in faith. You do the next best thing that you can come up with the assistance of being prayerful about it. It feels like where we struggle the most is if we don't take the time to do that beforehand. This feeling of weight and stress, and this is all out of my control, but we try to take it and make it into our control when we're trying to do it on our own. When we pull back from that, take a deep breath, honestly offer it to God, and say, I just want to do the next best thing for you, then it feels more manageable to me. Then to me it comes back to faith. I have to have faith that we ended up in the next best situation or spot for now. If God wants to change that, or there's a different plan than what we thought, then it will change.